started. Give me 30 seconds.
She needs to roll call.
Ready?
What you gonna bring?
Fist. Got it?
Live service.
Oh, my. And since it's just, well, it is it's a workshop, yeah. I took Shonda's. You can share it. Oh, Jonathan's getting one.
Sugar don't need one. I don't think she can figure out what's in it.
You know what, if I was so tired, I'd get right over there. All right, let's get serious. We're gonna talk about money now. I'd like to call to order the budget presentation workshop of Thursday, August 22nd. It is 6:06 p.m. We'll start with a moment of roll call.
Mayor Ronnie Felder,
Here.
Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson, Chair Pro Tem Julia Botel,
Here.
Councilmember Frederick McCoy,
Here.
Councilmember Shirley Lanier,
Here.
Councilmember Douglas Lawson,
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans,
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present, City Attorney Don Nguyen. May proceed.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance led by Councilperson Lanier.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Manager?
Madam Vice Chair and members of the City Council, this evening we will have an opportunity to go over the fiscal year 2020 proposed budget, but this first item is a recap from the strategic planning workshop and our Vision Riviera Beach 2030. Here to make the first presentation is Ms. Leah Gaines, Executive Director for the Center for Enterprise Opportunity.
Good afternoon, how are you? Again, I'm Leah Gaines, Executive Director of the Center for Enterprise Opportunity. I wanted to come to you today to really just give you an update and a summary of where you are in the strategic planning process. As you know, we spent a day, just for the public's information, we spent about a half a day really brainstorming and going through 3 critical exercises so that you could finally get to determining what the major strategic area focuses would be for you going forward over the next 10 years. That's why we've named it Vision 2030. As a brief recap, we started the day with really why do we need a strategic priority and goal-setting process. And everyone knows it's to basically provide a framework to guide the decisions of the mayor, city council, and your staff. And it really is a roadmap for policy guidance to staff for the desired outcomes that you want to achieve. We then went to recapping and reaffirming the vision statement, the mission statement, and the core values. I think everyone in Palm Beach County knows the vision statement of Riviera Beach. It's a well-known statement, and it's really highly regarded, and that is that Riviera Beach is the best waterfront city in which to live, work, and play. However, we know a vision statement is aspirational, and it states what you, the organization, wants the city to be or to achieve. It's the ideal description of a future state of the city. But what are you doing now to ensure that you get to that day, that road? It's been said that imagination, planning without any real determination is just a fantasy. So you can always brainstorm a fantasy, but how do you actually transform it into reality? So we looked at the mission statement, and the mission statement really is a statement that says to the public what your purpose is and what your current status is, what you're currently committed to in order to achieve that vision. This mission statement was adopted in 2017 by the City Council, and it was reaffirmed by you at the workshop. Hopefully, you will move it forward for a formal adoption at some point in time in the future when the strategic plan is actually adopted. But that mission statement, and if you remember, I had you almost reciting like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, is that we are committed to creating an exceptional city, and there were 3 components through that and what you were going to do, by providing excellent customer service, progressive leadership, and accountable stewardship. And we took some time during the workshop to break that down to really identify what do those terms mean. We then went to the core values. And the core values are the fundamental principles that really guide how you, the organization, will make your decisions and how you also will carry out your mission and values. And it's something that's, they're principles that are pretty static. Typically, they're not changing. You don't change them like you change clothes every day. It's something that stands the test of time with you, and it represents the city. And we recapped them, we reaffirmed them, and we also defined them again before you reaffirmed them. And they were professionalism, ethics, excellence in customer service, and we actually meant that meant going beyond being responsive to solutions, integrity, that we were decent, upright, and fair in all dealings, diversity, and we wanted to define diversity because we wanted to embrace it both internally and externally for the purpose of empowering people to reach their full potential, just not to have a variety of things at an event. Respect for opinions, that you would treat your colleagues and your customers and your citizens the way you expect to be treated, with courtesy and sensitivity to the rights, cultures, and traditions of all. Transparency was a very important one that you reaffirmed, that you were open about your business practices because you knew that it fosters trust with the community. And it helps you be more responsible in managing and safeguarding the public resources when you're transparent about your dealings. And last but not least, innovation, that you want to continuously seek smarter and newer and creative ways to serve your citizens and the community and improve the city's processes.
Excuse me, let the record show that Chair Milner Anderson has joined us.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. We then engaged in 3 additional exercises. And we did the classic SWOT analysis exercise, which is you really inventorying and identifying your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We tried to do it so that it was a little bit more exciting and creative, and we did it along the lines of speed dating or speed networking, where you all got a chance to rotate to different stations. And you all were very open, non-judgmental, and very thoughtful about the analysis. And you took a real deep critique of everything, your weaknesses, your threats, and your strengths and opportunities. And you can't get to the next step unless you actually are authentic and realistic about confronting everything that you need to in the city. We then went to a visioning exercise. That was the fun exercise. That was the exercise where you broke up into 2 groups, and your charge was that it was 2030, and the city was being featured in a major periodical or magazine. What would that headline read? What would the sub-articles be? What would some quotes be? What would be some of the data and statistics that would be showcased throughout the periodical? And so you got to work, and you had your magazines and your scissors and your tape and your glue sticks, and you really created some beautiful visions for the city over the next 10 years. But then I brought you back to reality with the last exercise, and that was the forward pull exercise. And basically what that exercise asked you to do was, you're already achieved that success of the vision. What did you do to accomplish that vision? And so we started out with you categorizing those to-do lists and those to-do steps, and you placed them actually in 9 categories: governance, planning, staffing, revitalization, engagement, recreation, economic development, stewardship, and innovation. We took those categories and your input for all of the categories, and what I'm going to present to you next is that we synthesized them by collapsing and merging those that had similar themes and motives and that overlapped. And we came really forward with 5 strategic areas of focuses or priorities. Those 5 strategic areas of focus are, and these are not in any specific order at all, by the way. They're just there for enumeration purposes. Prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy. And we chose those words, resilient and sustainable, because we wanted to send the message that we were looking at a long-term comprehensive strategy, and we wanted to ensure that the economy that we were trying to create would be able to prevent any attacks or disasters to the economy, to withstand any hard hits to the economy, and most importantly, to also recover from any hits. So that's why we wanted to identify that particular strategic area with the word resilient. We wanted to talk about sustainable because we wanted to take a long-term view. And we wanted to talk about not just business and industry per se, but the entire wealth and resources of the community that would contribute to a sustainable economy. And that could be, for example, the level of skills in the community. It could be the social capital in the community. It could also be the environmental contributions and how you care for the environment. Secondly, instead of just basically saying revitalization or planning, we collapsed it to great neighborhoods. And we felt that we wanted to have outcomes insinuated in these strategic areas of focus. So we talked about great neighborhoods and what that would look like. And what you did in your brainstorm sessions, envisioning, and in the forward pull session, you came up with some great foundations and plans for how you can engage the neighborhoods to really improve the quality of life in those areas. And so that's why we wanted to call it great neighborhoods. Third, operational excellence. That speaks for itself. That is a term of art, and it basically speaks to the performance management issues of the city. Sometimes it could be governing or policy issues, but most of the time it's in the management and administration of the city. Also, we wanted to talk about business improvement processes. Fourth, government stewardship and accountability. We talked about stewardship earlier when we talked about our mission statement. And we didn't want to just talk about stewardship in the sense of just fiscal stewardship. We wanted to talk about how you're entrusted to care for the people as a whole, and that you will be held accountable to them because they, through their elections of you, have given you the authority to basically make decisions for them. They've empowered you. And so it is your responsibility to be reciprocal and to be accountable, because at the end of your term, you will have to account to them about what you've done to improve their life. And last, community engagement and empowerment. We didn't just want to stop with engagement. We want to talk about what did we want to happen with that. So we want a shift in the power dynamic of working with communities by not just going in and telling them what they need to do, but we want to give them tools so they can tell us how they can make a change. But we also are here to facilitate partnerships, and partnerships that will meet them where they are and on par as human beings and stakeholders in the community, not telling someone what they need to do or someone being a recipient of a gift or charity. So to begin, There were some sub-goals in these 5 categories. The first was prosperous, resilient, and sustainable. Those sub-goals were create and promote a brand, an image, a new brand and image for the city of Riviera Beach. Now, what does that mean? That meant developing content and public information campaigns, press releases, special interest stories, and other features through the various formats that you control. That is Riviera Beach TV, your website. You're also in control of creating newsletters and other forms of social media marketing and news articles. And most importantly, you can target multiple audiences. You can target audiences such as residents, you can target employees, businesses, tourists and visitors, as well as other cities, state, regional, national, and public and private sector publications, because when you target those sources, there's going to be a feedback loop coming back to the area, and that's going to change the image. That's going to change the conversation about what's happening here in Riviera Beach. Many of you just came back from the Florida League of Cities conference. They have a publication called Quality Cities, and you may know that 3 cities, Sanibel, Ormond Beach, and Pembroke Pines, received the Florida Municipality Achievement Awards. And they received these awards for varying things that they did in the community, to engage and foster community, to improve the spirit and morale in terms of education as well. And so Riviera Beach can do the same thing. And so I want you to start thinking about how you start changing the image and the brand of the city. The International City County Management Association has a very good periodical, I believe it's digital as well, called Public Management. And they constantly are looking at cities across the country to showcase, to get perspectives and views, not just on successes, but on your journey to that success as well. So, you know, you can always find some good news to tell, and what came out of your workshop was that you have to control the narrative. You all said that. And so those are some of the ways that you can control that narrative. Next was goal 1.2, continue to leverage existing natural and geographic assets. You're in the catbird seat. No other city in Palm Beach County sits in the same position that you sit in, with the Atlantic Ocean, the lagoon. You have an island within your jurisdiction, Singer Island. You have the Port of Palm Beach, which is the 4th largest container port in the state of Florida. Now, they say they're the largest container per volume, per acre in the state, but that's within your jurisdiction. You also have contiguous to the city a state park. So you have many, many opportunities with the natural and built environment to leverage these resources to really create something great for the city of Riviera Beach. You mentioned to broaden the industrial base with the logistical sector. And I took a look at the logistical sector here in Palm Beach County. And of the 19 logistical companies that are here in Palm Beach County, 4 of them are here in Riviera Beach. That's FedEx, Southeast Hay, Cisco, and Tropical. But you have a great opportunity through many incentives, both national, and you can create your own incentives, to really raise that bar from 25%, because you've got the space here, you've got the industrial zones here, you've got, I believe, 4 qualified opportunity zones right here within your boundaries. And you simply just need to tap into that, market it. Don't just rely on the Business Development Board to attract business and industry to you. You should also get involved affirmatively and do that. Okay, so the next was develop and attract new economically sustainable development, which fosters environmental quality, creates vibrancy, and a sense of place. You all said you wanted the city to be a leading city, no pun intended, but LEED, both in the business development practices and in the operational practices. So you have an opportunity to do that when you incentivize and you invite development here to your city. And you want to create a place that is unique. That's what we mean by a sense of place. You also wanted to create a workforce and career liaison. You wanted to be proactive about that. On that day, we had a presentation from Palm Beach State College, and it was a really interesting presentation because it showed really what could happen here through a simple partnership between you and the State College. You've got a great working waterfront and marine industry here. The State College provides an American boat and yacht certification for training for people right here in the city of Riviera Beach. You could develop that partnership and start bringing up those skills and credentials so those individuals can be linked to the existing waterfront and the growing waterfront industries. Create business development ombudsman. Excuse me, let me back up. Foster sustainable building practices and operations for government, businesses, and the community to achieve a triple bottom line. Now, what does that mean? That meant, you said, when we do our development, we want all of our facilities to be LEED certified. We want to attract business and industry that's LEED certified. And we want the surrounding community to be knowledgeable and to be incentivized about LEED certification and building practices. So that, and the triple bottom line meant that it would be beneficial to people, to the planet, and for profits. Goal 1.7, create a business development ombudsman to attract business, develop local business prosperity and equity in contracting. Again, as I mentioned, you don't just want to rely on the Business Development Board. There's also interest that you need to develop the business capacity here with within your local community. You've got to do that. These are your residents that you serve. Oftentimes, that's put to the back burner. They look to the local people only for jobs. We should be looking for to tap the local community, to tap into the business genius of the community, to support that and develop that. And to do that, you need equity in contracting. Goal 1.8, update development, zoning, and design standards. I don't know the status of your zoning and design standards, but these design standards definitely tap into the quality of life for a sustainable economy. It's street furniture, it's lighting. What are those standards? It's painting, it's building mass. It's all of those things that fold into a sense of place here. And those may seem like very minutia, but it's very important. When people come to your city, they know they're in Riviera Beach. So that's another way of rebranding the image as well. It all folds back into everything. The next area of strategic focus was great neighborhoods. And you want to provide a diversity of market rate, workforce, and affordable housing. You were very concerned about gentrification and who the housing would be available for. So that was your goal that you mentioned under great neighborhoods, as well as creating aesthetic improvements with a focus on the most vulnerable communities. Create comprehensive and holistic opportunities for residents and seniors and families so that they can thrive and prosper as well. And by that, what we mean, you can pull together initiatives where you can support communities to access grant awards, federal, state, and philanthropic. These awards are available to neighborhoods in the areas of health and wellness, improving educational outcomes, eliminating food deserts, cultivating and promoting community-based arts and culture, and all of the things that really makes a neighborhood great. And the last goal was creating a police athletic or activities league to engage youth and young people in crime prevention, youth development programs, including sports. But what's key with all of this is the mentoring component and law enforcement initiatives that will build bonds between young people and the police. The next goal, operational excellence. Again, you all said the first line of business is to fill those essential positions with qualified, credentialed, and committed staff to move the city's vision forward. Did you hear what I said? You can be qualified, but you might not be committed. You could be committed, but you might not be qualified. So you need to have all three to catch up to where you need to be. Update and create standard operating procedures. This was a very important focus in the strategic planning workshop, because you felt that there needed to be some consistency in the management and implementation of departmental operations. You also wanted to create a customer service culture. You wanted to reverse a can't do to a can do, to really get to not just being responsive, as I mentioned before, but getting to solutions. You wanted to streamline the development review process. You mentioned that you wanted the city moving in one direction with one vision, and it needed to be aligned, and that you would want to look at how you can combine city and CRA to achieve that unified vision for Vision 2030. You mentioned creating an information technology plan, and one that is forward-looking. You took a lot of time on this point, and we know why. But it's very important because information technology really is the backbone of the city, if you think about it. It impacts your public safety, your security, your police, your fire, your business processes, how you access information. I mean, it's everything, how you operate, your software, your storage. It is really important. So you wanted to address enterprise information management for auditing, risk management, records retention, public records requests, and you want to eliminate silos. You wanted to maintain geographic information systems that link with municipal business licenses, such as business tax receipts and other business establishment databases, so you could facilitate information with customers. But also it's important because you may need it for post-incident impact assessments. Enterprise information security and cybersecurity to align with your organization's risks and requirements. Create a culture of security in your organization. And you said you wanted to see training in various formats. IT service management. You wanted to adjust the IT structure and staffing if necessary for effective and efficient integration throughout all departments so you can enhance and safeguard your operations. And let me just take a point of personal privilege and say that you really showed some level of resilience with the most recent ransomware attack. Just yesterday, 32 cities in Texas were attacked with the ransomware attack. And many of them, because they're small cities, they're lean, they don't have the insurance coverage that you have. So I think you showed some resiliency and some foresight, and that you did have that. So I want to encourage you to continue to be forward-looking, future-looking in coming up with your IT service plan. Anticipate those future costs when you're going into your budgets to secure the city's operational infrastructure and safety. And lastly, IT is important for business and customer service features and processes, water meters, online permitting, etc. And the next strategic area focus was government stewardship and accountability. What does that mean? Well, you realized at this workshop there was a lot of planning that needed to get done. First, you made a commitment that you wanted to adopt policies for the implementation of practices that would be transparent. You would have open records. You would have more reporting, more disclosures, more auditing to deliver accountability. I heard that from many of you. Naturally, as all governments want, they want to ensure robust internal controls to manage your risks and performance and maintain your strong public financial management position. You wanted to develop an annual budget to continue to reflect a healthy financial position, but also adequately service and maintain the city's capital assets, your fleet, your facilities, and your equipment. You want to develop a strategic and financial plan to upgrade aging infrastructure, facilities, and I think you mentioned there were 5 major facilities: roads, utilities, and bridges. Develop and update your capital improvement plan. I'm sorry, I wasn't moving through this. Your capital improvement plan, including the penny sales tax capital projects. You're behind the ball. You've got a lot of work to do to catch up. So this is going to give you a pathway to do that, where you can track that. Develop and update, revise and update your comprehensive plan. I don't know when the last time it was revised. I think the last date that I saw was 2010. And I believe you should at least revisit that at least every 5 years. Develop and implement your master utility plan. There was even a mention of considering annexation of utility service areas that were in extra jurisdictional territories to you, but were contiguous to you. And it would be beneficial for you to consider that. And to conduct a utilities assessment plan. Create an economic development plan. We've already mentioned enhancing transparency through technology by revamping and developing your website to maximize public access and information, records requests, business tax receipts, utility payments, and also receiving and responding to citizens' requests and citizen complaints. And to adopt a strategic planning as a tool, an ongoing process where you can critically assess how you're moving towards your goal attainment to achieve Riviera Beach Vision 2030. And your last area of focus, the 5th area of focus, was community empowerment. Community engagement and empowerment. To engage citizens through a variety of community information sessions and citizen input formats. You talked about surveys, you talked about focus groups, you talked about town hall meetings, you talked about summits, and you really said that the neighborhoods need quality of life plans for the city of Riviera Beach. So we want you to think about what that would look like if each neighborhood had an opportunity to create and shape a quality of life plan for their respective neighborhood. Create opportunities for learning and participation in government through the Citizens Leadership Academy. You talked about succession planning for your role. That's a great way to do that. Boards and committee appointments, various citizen advisory boards, and you can always create ad hoc task forces and other citizen volunteer initiatives which give people an opportunity to serve and learn. Connect citizens and residents with opportunities for career building certifications and degrees via partnerships with institutions such as the presentation we heard that day from Palm Beach State College. To educate and inform the citizens and all stakeholders, businesses and nonprofits and religious organizations about environmental issues, conservation, recycling, and what are those best practices to protect and further enhance the natural environment. And the last goal was to develop partnerships and organize the social service agencies. You said there was a plethora of them in the community. Neighborhood associations, churches, hospitals, and health organizations, including the VA, to connect your residents to a comprehensive and coordinated services and resources. And that can be done easily. That is the final sub-goal of the 5th goal. So the next steps are, of course, you're going to review, your city manager is going to work with you to define and refine the plan if need be, and then you will be developing and implementing a strategy to execute the plan. And I'm going to turn it over to the city manager because at that point in time, you're going to have to come up with, working with your manager, what tools you're going to use to track the processes and to adopt the actual how you're going to accomplish this plan. Put them into a document that you're going to adopt, and so that you can hold yourself accountable and your feet to the fire. And that is it. I'll turn it over to the city manager if you have any questions. This is a plan. It's open for more to be added or anything to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the board, just for the sake of discussing some key elements here in the plan, if you can turn to page 10 on the presentations that speak specifically to the 5 strategic areas of focus. Those 5 strategic areas of focus, in conversations with Ms. Gaines, those are what we were able to glean from the conversation that the board had at its retreat. So if it is the desire of the board to say that these overarching strategic areas of focus would effectively be the goals of the board, everything that we do from a municipal standard and everything that the budget is to be developed on should coincide with these if they are the goals that you wish to develop. Now, we still have some subsequent conversations that we will have with the board. We have a meeting on Monday to talk about the capital improvements plan. So if you wanted a little bit more time with this particular document to review it and then see if this is the 5 goals that you'd like to move forward on, we can certainly allow that to happen for the board. But if you are comfortable with these as your overarching priorities or goals for fiscal year 2019, 2020, what we would do is when the departments get up today and communicate some of their objectives need to coincide under one of these goals. If it doesn't, then we have to ask ourselves the question, should we be doing that as a overall objective for that department? And so it really needs to fit in with what your collective vision is for the city, because the budget is a spending plan to support the vision of the board that ultimately you get input from your constituents. So at this time, staff and Ms. Gaines is certainly available to speak in any more specificity on this, or if the board is okay with these as written, we can proceed forward.
With the, I would imagine the education component that we've been talking about, I didn't exactly see it spelled out as one of the goals, but I would imagine it would probably fit better somewhere in with the community engagement and empowerment part.
Right.
But there really isn't anything that speaks to assisting as much as we've talked about. So if maybe we can add a goal to go up under that section.
Yes, Madam Chair. I can also forward to you, there are some other drill down sub-goals. I didn't put them all in
Okay.
here.
Okay.
I just really wanted to categorize and classify them for you.
Okay.
But certainly, we can be as specific as you want in those sub-goals, absolutely.
Only because I know we talked a lot about it, and
Yes.
we're trying to do some form of a partnership. Just thought it would be important to make sure we had it listed as one of the goals, since we're going to be committing some of the
Yes.
funds at some point, maybe to it. But it would fall up under that category anyway.
And certainly from staff's perspective, and I think from an execution perspective, for the board to identify 5 to no more than 7 overarching goals, so we can make sure that we can have our objectives under that, because we don't want to have too many overarching goals, because then it's pulls us in directions where we want to focus on a limited number and be exceptional at the ones that we identify and make sure our objectives coincide with the goals of the board.
Madam Chair. I think it might be appropriate to take Goal 5.5 under Community Engagement and Empowerment, which speaks about developing partnerships and organizing social service agencies. I think that schools would fit very well under that category, and we could use that as a vehicle for accomplishing the ends we want to have in terms of partnering with the school district.
We can certainly refine that and get it to a point that accomplishes the desires of the board concerning the education component.
May I just also say, you, Ms. Gaines, did an incredible job of capturing everything we did that day. I applaud her ability to really cover and remember. I don't know how you did it. It's almost as if you had a video playing of the words that came out of our mouths. It was, you really did a great job, and thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have any comments? All right.
All right, Madam Chair, we will work with Ms. Gaines to synthesize this, also incorporated in presentations for the final budget adoption as the overarching goals for the city of Riviera Beach. So if we can take a recess for about 25 minutes, Madam Chair, to make the switch over for presentations,
Okay,
and then we'll be ready for the next half of the session.
all right. We stand adjourned.
Recess, not adjourn, recess.